The smartest guys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all. Stephen and Rob without a doubt got the game all figured out. They know it all.
Yeah, that's right. The Survivor Know-It-Alls are back for Survivor 49. And after a summer of no Survivor US, at least, we are back together to recap episode 1 of Survivor 49. And here I am back with the author of the brand new, dare I say, hit book, Escape. It's Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how are you?
I'm excited to be back podcasting. You know, you like podcasts probably more during the summer, right? With Big Brother and everything.
Quite a
but
bit.
like, yeah.
Extensively. Well, there was a
I'm in, like,
period where I
hibernation.
wasn't podcasting that much, but generally, yes.
Yeah. And I have to say, you got a great glow up. I really am just like in awe of your new style. So you're like moving away from the plaids into this like new style of shirt.
It's the new era.
Is there a
They call
name
it.
for this kind of shirt? So like when I go into the department store, like 'cause I kind of want, I really like the look. What can I tell them?
Stephen, we have all season to explore all of my fashion stylings, but tonight is about Survivor 49. We're back. Survivor, the global community of Survivor is back
Yeah.
together to hear about Survivor 49. And what a start it was. It was a beautiful night where everybody shared the emotions of their passion. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm not feeling well, Stephen. I think I might be sick. You have to excuse me for a second.
Do you want, should I give you some water?
Yeah.
Do you want some water?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to persevere. I'm going to push through.
That was the
Okay.
moment. That's definitely a memorable moment.
If there is one moment that we will remember forever from tonight's episode, it will be Nicole's projectile vomiting on screen without any trigger warning whatsoever. I
Yeah.
really think that the Survivor editors could have given, they love to do funny stuff in the editing. They could have done like, brace yourself, 3, 2, 1. No one was ready for that.
Yeah. I was not ready for that. I mean, like, that was shocking. I would have looked away. Had I had the trigger warning, I would have looked away.
I can't believe they could show that on CBS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, MTV is like 90% vomiting on the challenge, right? Like fully 90% of like the challenge is like vomiting just like nonstop. So this is very little vomiting on Survivor.
Get Mike Bloom on standby.
Yeah.
The top all-time Survivor vomits. I think that this is all-time number 1. I don't think it's close, but check me on that. So much to
I
get
think
to.
of like what are the other really
I don't think that
iconic
we've-
vomits on the show?
I mean, I don't know. I think that we've seen like some spit, but this was an all-timer for Nicole. So she has a place in Survivor history. I will talk with Nicole on Thursday. First exit interview of the season coming up, and we're just getting started. Stephen, we are so back this week. I will be breaking it all down with the winner of Survivor 47 on Thursday, Rachel Lamont, and your friend and mine, Andrew Savage, will be my
Wow.
guest for the old school interview. Survivor Pearl Island's got a name check tonight.
That's exciting. Yeah. And you know, you can ask him, I guess, about how he feels having inspired new players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So all that and more coming up here on RHAP this week. Stephen, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm really excited. Like, you know, I love podcasting about Survivor. I love talking to you, our weekly catch up. You know, it's like a real joy. I'm so happy to be back in this world, you know?
Okay. Yeah, we're so back tonight, and let's break it down, and let's start, as we always do, with the tribal council and the person who got voted out. That would be Nicole. And it seemed like that, all right, this was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
Nicole didn't think so.
Nicole didn't think so, but we basically I thought we were being spoon-fed a little bit throughout the episode. Okay, the big move is coming. Sophie She talked about it at tribal council of like, hey, you know, or maybe this was in confessional, that you think you're somebody's number one, and then it turns out you're just their side chick. And I kind of thought we were being set up all along that Sophie is going to blindside Alex, who I made my winner pick yesterday. And so I was especially nervous about that. But then it turns out, no, it's Nicole.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways,
my number one.
I kind of like it. And obviously, like, I was a big booster on Survivor 48, you know, which I liked for all of its old school virtues.
And name checked in Survivor 49.
Yeah. You don't, well, yeah. You don't need to have, you know, you don't need to have like a huge blindside of a big, we would be incensed if they were taking out like a physical competitor when they're flubbing the challenges so bad. You know, it was exactly what we said when on Survivor 46 with that disaster tribe, when they were just like making all these terrible choices for voting people out. Well, right. Yanu. Right. Okay. And you know, like this was a sensible vote. The two targets were the people who are performing the worst in the challenges. You and I have been very big on favoring strength for that first vote, especially.
Yes.
And it was reasonable.
Yeah. And very quickly after the challenge, we saw that there was a 4 that was locked in. It was Jake, Alex, Jeremiah, and Sophie B. And they very quickly, they got to that 4 throughout the episode. And even though we saw Sophie's thought process all through the episode, okay, I don't know if I want Alex in the group, then it looked like it was going to be Nicole. And then Annie comes along. And Annie is like, I'm not just going to go with the flow here. Sure, we'll vote out Nicole. But where does that leave me? And we see Annie pull Sophie aside. And she says, hey, why don't the 3 women get together and break up the guys? And
was she pitching it for this vote? Or was she saying like, after this vote, then let's get a little thing and go for, like, I'm good with Nicole now. I couldn't quite follow that part of it. Like,
I got the sense, I thought she was saying, let's keep the girls together and then let's vote out, break up one of the guys, because I'm not sure necessarily if, you know, it would be maybe a blindside to Jeremiah to do it that way, or maybe that they would sort of like tell him last second. But it seemed like, okay, well, this is a position now where Sophie can have a little bit more control over what's going on. She doesn't have to rely on being like the third wheel with Jake, who, I mean, find somebody who looks at you the way that Jake looks at Alex.
Let's talk about that bromance in a minute, because I'm curious. I have more to say about that.
Yeah, let's just finish talking through the Annie of it all. And I really felt like, okay, well, this is gonna be the twist on this, where okay, it looks like it's gonna be Nicole, but actually, guess what? This storyline of Alex being sort of, you know, in Sophie's sights for the whole episode is going to pay off here. And then we end up seeing Sophie go back and bring this information to the group and says, hey, guess what? Annie is thinking about, she wants to vote out one of the guys. So a lot to unpack here. Let's start with Sophie's decision. Why does Sophie do this?
I mean, this is pretty sensible, right? Like, she's got this like strong 4 alliance. You know, she, Jake, Alex, and Jeremiah, she's in the sort of 3 of that alliance. And like the fact that like there's 2 ahead of her, you know, on day 1 or day 2 or whatever, like you're not worrying that you're tight 3, like there might be, I mean, there's a final 3, you know, worst case scenario in that version of your life.
Yeah, you know, there's no final 2.
Yeah. I mean, you're not worried about like them being closer.
You split the votes, Sophie. You got this.
Yeah. So there's no real negative scenario there for her. It feels like just like someone like day 1 of Survivor. It's like, I've got to have drama around me, you know? But
like, I don't want to be the Taj to JT and Stephen.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, Taj has got a great life, you know, amazing career, you know, still going with SWV. So you do want to be the Taj.
But she was in a season with the final 2.
Yeah, right. You know, but like still, like if you chose which of the 3 of us you wanted to be, you might want to be the Taj.
Yeah, unquestionably, the most successful person out of Stephen, JT, and Taj is Taj.
Yeah, exactly.
Prior to the release of Stephen's book, then Taj, watch your step.
Listen,
JT still comfortably 3rd.
Yeah. Weak in the escape. No, so yeah, like this was a pretty sensible move, I thought, for her to come back with this information and share it. You know, she builds trust. I would be worried if I were her that people are gonna like see me in the woods with Annie and they're gonna be like, oh, like what's going on over there? So I'm sure that was part of it too. And then they have this question of Annie is throwing her name out. We also saw this scene with Alex and Annie, where Alex kind of approaches Annie and says, "You're the ancient grandmother figure. Like you're the
Later
old
days.
crone who I hope to like, work with." It was so funny because she was like, "Please don't say the
Don't say
mom.
it. Don't say it.
Yeah,
And they're like-
exactly." And
Yeah.
then in his confessional, he's like, "My boss is this grandmotherly figure."
She
He's like,
thought that he was going to say, "You're like my mom," and he was going to say, "You're
Yeah.
like my grandma."
yeah.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Who P.S. She's 49. Like we are as old as she is. I mean, like the idea that like she is this like ancient figure on Survivor is I contest that. I contest.
Mhm. Yeah.
But anyway, so they had a bond, and you could see that he is kind of wrestling with like, oh, if she's so quick to throw my name out. And I kind of wanted to get your perspective on this, Rob, because on the one hand, I'm thinking, Annie's got a great point here. Like she doesn't want to be if she's the decoy now, she's the real vote next week. And, it makes sense for her to try to establish something to get her off of that. On the other hand, like she really did put out Alex's name. And like, if she does want a alliance with him, like you shouldn't be throwing that person's name out. Like say Jake, but don't say Alex. Like, do you think if you are Alex in this scenario, you're like, oh, that's totally understandable, I get it, or I'm really hurt, my trust is broken?
Yeah, I think if I'm Alex, I think I'm really hurt by that. I feel like, hey, I gave you an olive branch. You were on the outs. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to bring you in. And then you're throwing my name out there?
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that was not totally politic for her to like throw out someone who's had been kind of trying to build a relationship with her.
Okay, so when Sophie goes and brings it back, because it seemed like that Sophie was interested in exploring this with Annie. Anyway, do you feel like that maybe was Sophie trying to cover her tracks in case this came up, of that she, after further consideration, thought, no, I don't want to do this, and now I have to throw Annie under the bus just in case she comes back with that information that Sophie had this conversation with her?
I was thinking that might happen, is that would then sort of like, I was imagining that could have been a storyline where suddenly, Sophie's in trouble because she did go and have this chat and then that gets found out. But in fact, that was not at all what happened. Yeah. The group stayed together.
Well, the group stayed together, but they left that conversation being like, what, can you believe Annie would do this? We thought Nicole was the problem. It's Annie, 100%. The vote tonight is Annie. And then we went to tribal council. It was Nicole. So what changed?
I think they probably were like, I felt like that scene, they kept on going back to Alex kind of for his POV. And my guess, and this is based on nothing, but is that he kind of put the kibosh on it because he did, he does have hopes for that relationship. And that is sort of becoming like a move, right? Like Gabe going to sue, and I do wonder if some of it is just sort of like, people, is that like how much of that is like I want that maternal figure who I like gel well with, and how much of that is I know that these older women typically don't perform as well in front of the jury, and not because they're not performing as well. The jury doesn't give them always the credit that they deserve, so I want to sit next to one of them, because of that issue.
So to go back through this sequence of events, was it a mistake for Sophie to bring this to the group? Could she have just said, let me noodle on that to Annie and then not do anything with it and then keep Annie as a viable number? Whereas if she rats out Annie to the group and now Annie is persona non grata because she confided in Sophie, does that turn Sophie into somebody that Annie is trying to rally people against?
Oh, that's interesting. I was thinking it solidified her with that group because it shows she's bringing the information back. I mean, you're probably right. Annie doesn't love that when when she hears that it's Sophie, but she doesn't really have leverage. I mean, she is the next to go in that group. And it does seem like Sophie, has this instant thing with Jake and Alex, has Jeremiah's part of that. But then she and Jeremiah also seem to have a side thing, which, so I felt, I mean, to me, this was like a very like straightforward, almost like alliance group. There's that all kind of made the right choice, Do you think that Nicole certainly suggested that she knew what was going on at, that she was like on the lookout. Obviously, at the end, she said that had been tricked. They had convinced her. But at tribal council, Jeremiah says the person who's going home thinks that they're part of the group. When you hear that, like, isn't like that like instant shot in the dark. Like,
well, Stephen, even more. Before Tribal Council, we had this montage where I really felt like, okay, Nicole is going to put this all together because we get Nicole talking about, hey, I work in forensic accounting. I know when people are lying to me. If I get a hint that anybody is pulling a fast one, I'm playing the shot in the dark tonight.
Yeah.
And then we got like a montage of a bunch of people with sort of bad body language and people telling her, no, everything's good. Everything's good. People are like, holding things across their body and all sorts of like little things that I'm like, okay, we're going to see Nicole is going to put this together and realize, all right, at least I'm going to play my shot in the dark tonight. If not, go and really try to scramble. And then that thing happened with Jeremiah. And I really thought we were going to see, at the very least, Nicole go for the shot in the dark, but nothing.
Yeah. I mean, if they say it's between two people, you're one of the people. And they say the person who thinks that they are safe. I think you play your shot in the dark regardless there, right? Like, even if you're like, I know I'm safe. Like, if you're one of the two and it's Tribal Council number 1, I think I play it, because it's not a split vote. My vote doesn't matter that much. It's going to be a pile on. Like, right? Like, am I missing something? Like, obviously they did a good job of convincing her because she was convinced, right? She didn't play the shot in the dark.
I guess if you are thinking that, hey, if it's a 50-50 of that, okay, it's either me or it's going to be Annie, is my 50-50 better than my 1 in 6?
Right. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you lose the vote, that if it's like, are you a deciding vote? If it's going to be 5-1 versus 5-1, I think maybe you just play your shot in the dark anyway of like, okay, either it's 50-50 and you now have a 1 in 6 also.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's additive. So,
yeah,
I mean, we need Christian in here to do the math on this. Probably other people can do the math, but Christian could do it really well.
Yeah.
And
we saw him tonight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He got like a hugging moment. He's a lovely man.
So, Stephen, I did a podcast earlier this week with Stephanie Berger, who was the first person who got voted out in Survivor 48. And we explored this idea of how to not be the first person voted off. And when you're in this situation, in this 6-person tribe where especially, and Stephanie was really highlighting how she was in a disaster tribe and things looked bleak from the start. I don't think that was necessarily the case, especially you have Jake on your tribe. And so maybe they thought, okay, I don't need to scramble as much. But post-challenge, especially when Nicole is set up as the person who blew the challenge with being the caller in the table maze, I would have liked to have seen more scrambling. Now, maybe there's no other way to go, and maybe we don't see it, and maybe Nicole really is not feeling well.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, like, I think you see that, and like that might be a factor when you're making your vote, is the person who's randomly vomiting.
Yeah. If you're vomiting on Survivor, should you try to vomit in private?
Yeah. But then you don't get this great moment.
You don't get the great moment. Like maybe grab the camera person. Hey, follow me.
That's what Russell would do. If you are Nicole, do you want the vomit moment because it's like such a memorable moment, or do you not want it because it's like an embarrassing moment?
I think so. I don't think Nicole is going to be embarrassed about the vomit moment. We'll ask her about it. But I think that if you are going to go out in an early spot here, I think you do want to have an iconic moment that could be an all-time GIF from Survivor. Let's see how social media responds to this.
I think, I don't know. If it were me, I would want to be blissfully invisible. As someone who has had his stomach distress a source of Survivor content, I think I would err on the side of no thank you.
Yeah. What about the rest of this blue tribe? We haven't talked too much about Jake, and he was really at the center of so much of it. He loves Alex. He's very vocal about how much he loves Alex. Sophie is looking at him as the meat shield. Alex is looking at him as the meat shield. He ends up having a pretty good alliance with Jeremiah, who I thought was a lot of fun. And I thought that he seems like somebody who I may have been sleeping on in the preseason. So tell me about Jake and his prospects after tonight.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there was a lot of content about the Jake and Alex bromance. I don't think any of it was from Alex's point of view. I do not think we got a single confessional from Alex about the Jake-Alex bromance. It was all very much the Jake-Alex bromance. Which, did it give you at all? And I really like Jake, so I don't want this to give you at all like Dan and Kara from 37. Like, it's like he's got this whole thing happening between the two of them, and she's like, I'm here.
Yeah. So this is a, a man crush that maybe is not necessarily a mutual man crush. Is that what you're saying? Where I
Yeah.
think that Alex seems very personable, and he seemed like he got along great with everybody.
Yeah.
But it was a very one-sided man crush from Jake towards Alex.
Well, and I went back and I read Mike Bloom's pregame interviews with both guys, and it's really interesting because Jake says like this Alex guy, this AM or whatever, like this is his initials. Like I really like him. We're making a lot of eye contact. I want to work with him, and like I'm so excited about this. I hope we're on the tribe together. Like he was having the full Billy Garcia, like we made eye contact and I'm in love moment. And Alex says like I'm making a lot of eye contact with this Jake guy, and I would like to be like his number 2. I want to be like hidden by him and like work with him, but like kind of like be beneath him in the hierarchy. And that's basically what happened, like from both of their perspectives.
And the thing that Alex needs to be wary of here is the thing that I kind of thought was going to happen. And it's hard for Alex to account for this, but the tribe may look at that pair together and be threatened by the pair and say, well, we can't lose Jake.
Right.
And so I think that there is something about if you are not the bigger guy in this very public bromance, like you could be the target where the tribe is like, well, we can't lose our strength, but we got to break this up.
Yeah. I really like Jake as a character. Like, I mean, and as a player, but like what's great about him is like, he's like coming in hard, but like doesn't feel like aggressively hard, but he's also like very open and vulnerable. And that vulnerability is like serving a strategy. He shares the thing about his father, right? Not being able to watch the show after this season. Like this is basically his father's last chance to see him on this show, which is like, that's kind of beautiful and moving, and really tragic. And then he shares, with Alex and Sophie, this story about, his son. And so he's really, it seems like it's a very natural thing. And that we talk all the time about how, just sort of who you are is ultimately your strategy, but it ultimately serves a strategic purpose because he's getting very deep with these people very quickly. And I think that's creating real bonds for him.
Yeah, we certainly saw this with Joe in Survivor 48. And it was something that I talked about with Joe in the exit interview where he actually cited Genevieve, where Genevieve had talked about how she was having a hard time separating the game from the personal. But Joe's strategy in Survivor 48, which I think that really is where Jake's school of thought is coming from, is like, hey, if I make these deep personal bonds with people, that they are going to have a very hard time getting rid of me. And I think that when Jake is telling you about how, hey, my father has glaucoma, he is going to lose his eyesight. This is the last thing he's going to get to see is me playing on the show. And also, I missed my kid's birth to be here. Are you going to vote him out first?
Yeah. And it's also like for like the biggest guy there, it's also very humanizing. It's like not like this is this like titanic physical figure, which obviously they all see him as, but it's also, hey, this is like a sweet human being.
And not to say that the players will never vote him out first, but I think there is the thought like, well, we can't vote him out first.
Right. Yeah. That's a really
eventually,
great
if
point.
it's like, oh, if it's him or me, I'm going to pick me. But if there's other avenues I could pursue in terms of this vote, well, let's not vote out Jake first.
Yeah. And I mean, he just like came in very, hot, and it was great. I mean, well,
you're referring to his earlier career?
Yeah, exactly. As like a, what were they called? The Sweat Hogs, the Sydney Sweat Hogs.
So the Thunder from Down Under is like what you see like posters for. When I was like, would go to Vegas in the back of a taxi, but I never heard of the one that he was performing in.
Yeah. But good for him. And truly like, very fun. Now, Alex from in that pair does seem to like be playing it down a little bit more. He does seem to be making more connections across the board.
Alex Moore.
He was the person who Nicole was looking at when, I mean, to be fair, they were seated right next to each other when she was like, is it me? And he's like, no. And he, as your winner pick, lost that challenge in a very similar way to Kyle last season, where he was way ahead and then really flubs the last stage. Is that his winner moment? Is losing that supplies challenge the new, win or something or other?
Well, it is interesting that Kyle did go on to win, and he broke the bottle, and he had that moment of sportsmanship there. I feel like that this was more of Rizzo's moment, the way that it all unfolded, more so than it being Alex's moment, where Alex has the big lead, and collapses like a baseball team that I root for tends to do. And for Alex, he was able to rebound well from it, but I think that we'll look back at that, and maybe that's a little bit more of Rizzo's origin story.
Yeah, Alex did not seem to be, and again, it's hard to tell just from this team. He didn't seem to be going very deep. He kept on going back to the trench.
Yeah.
But
we don't know what the issue was.
Expanding the trench or going
deep. That's how you do it on Survivor. How many times do you have to hear that?
I mean, some of the times these chests are like 6 feet down.
Yeah, I don't know. Stephen, next tribal council for this blue tribe, Kelly, I think is the tribe name. Is it Annie? Is it an open and shut case?
I think it's Annie. Yeah. If they go back to tribal council, I think it's Annie. What did you think of the shoe bandit stuff?
Yeah, I was a little bit trying to understand what's the idea here. So Jake every day is going to misplace one person's left shoe.
I think that's right. Yeah.
It seems like he wants to get caught.
Yeah.
This is like, the wet bandits like to leave their calling cards. Like, what's the point here?
I think I liked it, and I'll say why.
Why?
Yeah. Okay. I liked it because first of all, he was like, this is 99% fun, and it's fun. You're out there. It's quite miserable physically, right? It's long. You're hungry. You're uncomfortable. Make it fun for yourself. Do goofy things. And he's not throwing people's shoes into the ocean as others have done, Holly. He's not burning clothes as others have done, Russell. He's just kind of moving it a little bit away from camp. He's just kind of and having a little fun. And I do think that sort of mystery and question and the distress of it all will, like he said, it's 1% chaos. And I kind of think that does get into people's heads, who is this person? Who's doing this? Why are they doing this? And he's the only one who doesn't have that doubt because he knows why they're doing it.
But at the point that he gets caught doing this, obviously the tribe is going, there's less people now. Okay, Nicole is gone, but now when it happens to Alex tomorrow, okay, well, there's only 4 other people here. Who is moving the shoes? Don't you feel is this not giving psychopath tendencies when you find out that one person is misplacing people's shoes on purpose?
Yeah, I think it depends. Yeah,
he has to come and I got you as a prank, because it seems like it's a move if he does not add that sort of hey, I'm joking, we're having fun. Okay, you hide one of my shoes tomorrow.
But I feel like he would have enough, he clearly has good bro sense in terms of just being being able to kind of connect with people. So I feel like that he would actually be able to pull it off well if he did get caught, and hopefully he doesn't get caught.
Stephen, I'd love to get your thoughts a little bit on the episode overall. 2-hour premiere for Survivor 49. How are you feeling after 2 hours into the new season?
Well, I want to say out of the gate, I love Survivor. It's so fun. Anytime, it's a great beginning, right? What could be coming next? No, it's just great. It's a great format. And even when it's not the most action-packed episode, it's just a wonderful format. These people are coming in, they're so excited to be there, but they're screaming against each other. And it's a beautifully produced show, and it's on this tropical island. And it's just the whole, is it on an island or is it on the mainland? I don't know. I guess it's Fiji.
We're following you.
It's on.
Keep going.
Yeah. It's on an island. It's just a great format. And I actually, you're coming in, you've probably devoured 1 billion hours of preseason content, but I have not. And I felt like I got to know basically everyone in this group. I got a sense of everyone. And so as I said, went back and started to read some of the pregame interviews. And then I was like, I actually, just to make sure I kind of, was conversant with who everybody was. And then I stopped because I felt that the episode had done a really good job of introducing all the players to me. So even though it wasn't a super kinetic episode, I felt like it's an exciting show. It's a great format. And I really had a great time. And I learned who everybody is.
Feel like Survivor has done a very good job of helping us learn who everybody is. I'm pretty sure, and I haven't looked at the charts or anything, I'm pretty sure everybody got a confessional or a moment, and I don't think there was one player in 2 hours that we felt like, wait, who is this person? This person is purple. They got nothing. So everybody got something in this introduction to Survivor 49. But I did feel like that overall, I feel like that this was a little bit of a sleepy start to Survivor 49. And I feel like that this was a largely conflict-free 2 hours of Survivor.
Yeah. Well, is that what could have been different? Like they cast these people,
Mhm.
they come out there, and they're all pretty nice. I mean, is this like is the problem like there's not enough villains?
I don't want to relitigate that.
You don't want to have villain dialogue.
But I will say, everything is, it's everybody is so joyful. And listen, and maybe that Survivor feels like, hey, there's so many places in the world that are not filled with joy. Survivor is, we want this to be a happy place that's all about joy. But I do feel like that some of that conflict is essential. But I felt like that it was even, this episode was like a microcosm of that in even at Tribal Council, where Jeff was seemingly getting frustrated with the players of like, okay, great, that's all well and good, but guess what? There's a leak in the boat. You're going. So I think that Jeff like is able to even express that how he's feeling when these people are getting there at Tribal Council. And it's like, hey, this can't be all lovey-dovey the whole time. We got to get down to brass tacks. We're happy. We're also thrilled that you're here. But eventually, like, we got to get into it here. And it sounds like from some of the things that Jeff has said in the preseason that it's going to take a little while for this season to really start to, hit its stride. Jeff's talked about how he's saying that it takes a little while to get going. I'm paraphrasing. He says the later stage of the game is incredible, one of the most unpredictable seasons that we've ever had, but does sort of imply that it's going to take a little while for this group to get going in terms of really playing the game.
Yeah. And I do think part of that is, I mean, first of all, it could be generational, right? Like the people who are in there. I mean, it's just like they could just be like a nicer generation. Survivor used to be Gen X, not to get all Gen X versus millennials. I mean, like early seasons of Survivor.
Gen X versus millennials was a while ago.
I know. I mean, now we're all Zoomers, but like Gen Xers were all like disaffected, disenchanted loners, and now you get this generation that's very much based on like communities and connection, and like they're just not as isolated and angry as we were. And I do think too, like, I mean, Jeff sets the tone, in that first intro, and he says to Stephen, like, who, tell me about yourself. And he's like, I'm Stephen. I'm from wherever it was, Colorado or whatever. And he's like, no, what I want to know about you is why do you love Survivor?
Yeah, that's a Price is Right intro.
Yeah. But like that fact that like the only thing that's relevant about his biography is why he loves the show he's on right then. But I mean, like, it does create this sort of like aura of positivity and enthusiasm, and celebration. And I kind of think that sort of, if he pit them against each other, like, tell me why you hate the person to your left, that's just like totally a different vibe for the show.
So one of the things that I was kind of feeling in the lead up to this season, and I get asked by a lot of people questions like, hey, Rob, you're the Survivor guy. What's new about this season? Why should we get excited for Survivor 49? And I have to say that I was a little hard pressed to be able to answer that question other than, well, the next one is going to be Survivor 50.
Exactly. Get in now.
And they've said some people from Survivor 49 are even going to be on Survivor 50. So Jeff even had done an interview, and I'm not sure if it was with Dalton or with Mike, and he said that like this is like the prequel to Survivor 50. But I really feel like that in the planning of Survivor 49, like I think that Survivor should have taken a bigger swing with Survivor 49 because Survivor 50 looms so large and casts such a shadow over this season. And I was thinking back to, and you'll rarely hear me say too many positive things about Survivor 39, but they knew Survivor 40 was coming. And they took a big swing there with the Island of the Idols. They said, okay, we're going to do something that's a little wacky here. And we really want to separate this out. We know a lot of people are thinking about what's coming after this, but let's go ahead. Let's take a swing on Survivor 39. And I really do feel like that, after watching Survivor 49, which was fun, but it just doesn't feel all that different from, a lot of the new era, I think, suffers from a lot of samey same in terms of like, if you love Survivor, you're going to love this. But in terms of it being something that feels different, it doesn't really have that. I would have loved if maybe Survivor like took a big swing at something that sort of separated 49 from the rest of the 40s.
I wonder if they're like saving their powder for the 50s. They're like, this is an inflection point. Like, let's just get through this season. It's going to be good. It's Survivor. It's a great format. And then like, let's really like figure out what the newer era is, you know, the new era, it was its thing. The complaints, we all have the same complaints about it, but like, what's the newer era? Like, let's like put some ideas on the whiteboard about that. Because 50 does feel like a really clean kind of opportunity to sort of like refresh. And I am curious, like, you're like, okay, like this is like a body of work. This is a chapter of our show.
Yes. And speaking of chapters, let's talk about what you've had going on here. And at the end of last season, you had just announced that you had pre-orders open for your book that you have been working on for almost all of the time that we've been podcasting together.
So
finally,
crazy. Yeah.
it's ready. It's ready to go. And over the summer, if anybody missed it, Stephen's book here, as you can see, pictured here, Escape by Stephen Fishbach, got this beautiful cover art.
Yeah, not with the blue, just the part with like in the blue. But yeah, it's got a cover. And if you missed me talking about it, which I feel like I've been so loud and boisterous about it, maybe it is impossible. The book is about a has-been reality contestant and a disgraced producer who get one last chance on a new show on an island. I literally just finished copy edits on Monday. So I'm really like totally done. And I really feel like this book is like, I mean, to say something like this is my life's work, like it feels very grandiose, but it really feels like the capstone of me. Like it channels like everything that I have, been working for and my experience. I mean, so much of my thoughts and care and love for reality TV is here. I've worked for over a decade on kind of improving my writing craft. And like all of my time in the media, I feel like has informed this. And, what's been really encouraging for me about this is that even as all of that has been, I feel like it does kind of capture all that, all of the early readers are saying this is, a fun, propulsive read, which is something I really tried hard. I want it to be like enjoyable, fun, propulsive, and that's so far been the case. You can order signed copies now from stephenfishbach.com, or, through any of your favorite retailers.
Now, if anybody has listened to Stephen over the years, they know that he is not just going to put out some schlock. He's going to put everything and all of his energy and, passion into writing this book, especially when he's spent so much time on it. And Stephen, I've seen some amazing reviews, including from friend of the podcast, Emily Nussbaum.
Yeah, I was really, really excited about this one.
Who wrote, if you don't know who Emily Nussbaum is, she's writes about reality TV, is a staff writer at The New Yorker. I had her on the podcast last year. I had listened to her book, Cue the Sun, which I thought was really amazing. I want to say a biography of reality TV, she went back and told the history. There's a great Survivor chapter in there as well. She said about Stephen, she said that Escape is a thrilling, emotionally affecting deep dive into the perilous world of reality television production in all its manipulative glory. In this sharp page-turner, Survivor maven, and former contestant Stephen Fishbach captures the lives of both cast and crew, offering up gorgeously written, compassionate, but ultimately devastating portrait of the lives of the human beings working inside and often crushed by the entertainment machine.
Yeah, I mean, I was giddy. I think I like screamed when I got that from her, because you make something and like you hope it's good and you put it out in the world. And reading that, I thought to myself, okay, like I have, I've got my one perfect reader. Emily Nussbaum, who like literally, as you said, like wrote the book on reality TV, knows so much about this world, cares about it. Like this resonated with her, and so I felt confident that this is going to resonate with other people who love reality TV too. Like. So like for the listeners of this podcast, like if you have the means or the, to order this, to pre-order this, it would mean so much to me. Like truly, I can't even tell you. I'm not supposed to say this.
Oh,
in fact, I've been explicitly told not to say this. But the reason I'm so fixated on pre-orders is that it's like this like quirk of publishing where all of your pre-orders hit on the day that your book is formally released. And so like that is instrumental in your sales numbers because basically all of those sales register on that one day.
Yeah.
And so if you have like any hope of getting on like a bestseller list, like it all comes from pre-orders. I think the reason I'm not supposed to say it is because it sounds crass, like, oh, like come help me get on a list. And like, I might not even get on the list. And then it's like, isn't that sad? But like, I kind of think it's like less crass to just say like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And like, this is my goal, rather than like, be like, oh, I'm trying to increase my visibility. Can you like pre-order for me? You know, this is probably like my one shot in my life to get on these lists, like me writing a book about reality TV. And so like, truly, you know, if you are a Know It Alls listener, like, I don't have like a podcast, a Patreon, or like a Kickstarter. Like, this is like kickstart the next 15 years of me podcasting. Like, truly, like, I'm somewhat embarrassed about this, but like, if you could buy this book and, you'd want to, like, this is the audience that sent me back to Survivor Cambodia. And so this is your chance to make it up for me. This is your chance to apologize.
They owe you. Because you went and did Survivor Cambodia for them.
Yeah.
They owe you now, right?
Yeah, that's my feeling. It's like, this is, the chance to apologize.
Yeah. Well, thank you for working that through. Any of our Big Brother listeners are well-versed in how pre-orders work by this point in time. So appreciate you explaining all that, and looking forward to hearing more about it. Go to stephenfishbach.com to get your orders in. All right.
So Taryn's out and open about. Oh, I thought I was like breaking some big taboo.
I
was like,
so. They
know.
Wow.
They
know now. They know.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about what's going on some of these other tribes. Should we talk about the Red Tribe?
Yeah. The Red Tribe, like, this seems like the drama tribe already to me. Like, they're the ones where I felt like we got a lot of, Blue obviously went to tribal council. We saw very little of Yellow. They were more the love tribe, but it seemed like Red had a lot of bigger characters, and we saw a lot of their personalities.
Yeah. Okay. So the Red Tribe, we saw from Savannah, Shannon, and Sage, the 3 S's. Stephen.
Yeah, I know. And they're all sort of like tall brunettes. Like, when I first saw this group, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna, but actually they were really all like very distinct in terms of their personalities. It was actually not hard at all to remember who they were.
And then we have Rizzo and Jawan and Nate, who were the 3 guys that were in that tribe. And I have to say that this tribe went a little bit differently than I really expected it to do. Now, I, unlike you, got very well-versed into all of the preseason of it all. And one pair that I felt like was going to, this is a surefire duo, if I've ever saw one, was really going to be Jawan, who had that really amazing opening monologue, Shades of Tevin, where he talks about, this is act 1 of a horror movie.
Right. And by the end, you're the monster.
Oh my God. I would say in act 1 of the horror movie, there's a little bit more of
murder.
Yeah. This was like the trailer to the horror movie.
Yeah. Although sometimes act 1 actually is very slow in a horror movie. That's kind of like, actually sort of like a lot of horror movies like are really slow until the midpoint.
Yeah. Okay. So
they're driving to the cabin. They go to the gas station.
We all thought in the preseason, okay, well, Jawan is on this tribe with Nate, and Jawan, we know he's a big movie buff. He is a comics guy. He's an editor. He loves these type of movies. He told Mike Bloom in his preseason interviews, he was comparing the players at Ponderosa to people in Marvel movies. And then, okay, he's on the tribe with Nate. And here comes Nate. And it seems like that they did not have a bond at all.
I kind of think this was like, it actually looked like by the end of the episode that Nate might be in a better spot than Jawan. But I sort of thought it was like a misstep from Nate to come in and say, he says like, oh, I'm not going to share with them that I, have made these movies. I'm not going to share with them that I've been like in this like Hollywood guy. Like, oh yeah, like terrible idea to tell this cast of people who are obviously eager to be on TV that you have all these Hollywood connections and are doing super well. Like, it's like the anti Mike White strategy. Like, that actually serves you very well to like cater to that, and, a lot of people said that part of the reason, that initially they weren't threatened by Mike White was because they were like, oh, he's super successful. Like, he's not going to like need the millions. So I think that this might've been a misstep from Nate to not share that info. What do you think?
Well, it seems like that Nate is going to be okay by the end of this. And it seemed like that, Savannah seemed like that she really warmed up to him. That is very hard to be able to get those perceptions from people, because that when you are preparing to go on a reality TV show, I think that you may have like one thought in your head of like, people are going to perceive me as this, and I need to really overcorrect for this because this is how people but it may turn out that that's not how people see you at all.
I mean, we joke about that. Like that tribe, everyone was like making up nonsensical lies. You know, Savannah says, "I'm not telling anybody I used to work in news." Nate says, "I'm not going to tell them I'm rich and successful and connected to Hollywood." Like, why? Like why? Like you used to work in news. Like, there's a lot of like, you know, the most recent newscasters both did really well with Rick Devens and Sam. You know, like it's actually a great profession to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, people, I think, are really in their head. And as you talk about, everybody's always like the hero of their own domain. And people think that, that people have all these like preconceived notions about what it is that I do for work. So I got to tell them something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the problem is, you don't know necessarily what the preconceived notions are about the cover story.
Right. You can't tell. You definitely don't say you work in elevator sales. Like that is for sure.
Yeah. So in this group, we saw a few different versions of, and I did not see this coming, that Savannah and Shannon are seemingly like trying to pick out who else is going to be in the 4 with them. And everybody seems to think they're in the 4.
Yeah. Well, initially we have this conversation with Jawan and those two. And Jawan is, from his perspective, is auditioning the 4th person. Of course, we get a JT and Stephen shout out. So I'm very, you know, naturally inclined to like Jawan. And then it's been 30 seasons. That's incredible. Come on. 30 seasons later. Anyway, then we get, you know, then we get them also talking to Nate. We have Savannah talking to Nate, and Nate proposes Rizzo as the 4th. So yeah, there's a lot of different. Who's left out though? Who is the person who's not, like, who's the person on the Red Tribe who's kind of, you know, the boot if they go to tribal council?
You know, I feel like that Sage is the person that we're not hearing about a lot as the 4th. I mean, as much as like this was, I said this was like a conflict-free episode, that the most that we heard anyone speak ill of anybody else might have been Nate speaking about Sage, who talked about like, oh, wow, she is great, she is fun, but
exactly,
I don't know if I want to work with her.
Yeah, because she's like too she too chatty, and that was right on the heels of her thing about how much she loves to talk about poop
and pee.
Yeah.
All of the bodily fluids came out tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of pee content. You know, Tommy in the influencer episode talking about how much he pees. I really haven't heard that from Survivor. Maybe it's a new direction for the show. Maybe that's what 49 is about.
Yeah. So, yeah, not since Kathy had to pee on John's hand in Survivor Marquesas. You know, it's been a big part of the show's history.
Yeah, back to the basics, 49. All that pee.
You know, drop the 4, keep the number 1. Let's bring it back.
Yeah.
That's how the new era got started.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So should we talk a little bit more about Rizzo, who we mentioned about how he battled with Alex at the what do they call it? The Tribe Supplies. Fight for supplies.
Yeah, very fun. Very fun. Did Alex not make a mistake not knocking over his puzzle?
But the problem with knocking over his puzzle is that it's also his map. So, you know, if you knock over the thing, we saw him need to go back several times to be able to go back and look for the X. And he would not be able to do that if he knocks over his thing.
I think after the first time, because like what seemed to be clear about the map, and I'm sure Alex will have a good rationale for why this was not clear. And if you're in the moment, you're hot, you're flustered, I'm sure everything is a blur. But like there seemed to be those logs were really clearly marked out on the map. I would feel like, you know, that's my zone.
Yeah, it really was. To the viewer at home, there was no, and it wasn't like one of these things where somebody is like looking for the idol and then the editors like highlighted and yelled. Right. We have no idea was Alex digging in the wrong spot, or was Alex not digging deep enough?
Right. Right. I mean, it seemed sure to be like the latter. But yeah, so very fun moment where Rizzo then like can't even cheat off of him. So he literally brings the puzzle. I love that. He like literally brought the puzzle pieces over and solved his puzzle on top of Alex's puzzle. And I mean, it's just like great. It was very emotional and very sincere. And he's very charming, right?
First time we were meeting Rizzo, of course, we got to see his big debut onto the Survivor scene when he was in the Survivor 49 promo, and he is the man, the myth, the legend, the Riz God, and everybody couldn't stop saying Riz God for a little while there. Now we get to see him in action. What are your thoughts on Rizzo as the Survivor player so far? Is he about what you expected?
I mean, I think that I have had time in the interim to, change my perception. Right? When we first saw that moment in that promo, I feel everyone kind of was like a little bit put off by it because it seemed so like he really was like might be more of a caricature and like look at me like really like trying hard to be like edgy, but that's obviously not at all who he is. And I think we every subsequent clip has shown that he's like a very sincere guy, and that's like sort of like tongue in cheek. Maybe like the Riz God persona is sort of all in fun, and that he just seems like a really sweet, well-meaning kid.
He was so emotional after he won the I want to call it Sweater Savvy, the Fight for Supplies challenge, and really just such a big emotional response to that whole situation where it really just seemed like such a culmination for him to have been able to win the supplies for his tribe.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, right? Like to have, obviously a lot of pressure to not think he's going to be able to compete at the puzzle and then to sort of pull it out at the last minute. I kind of actually sort of thought he was going to, because it was so cut and dried looking at it that it looked like Alex was going to win, where you literally have this moment of Rizzo saying, if it's a puzzle, forget it. And then you have this like tribe talking about it afterwards. Like he said, if it's a puzzle, forget it. Is it a puzzle? Then we got to forget it. And then you have Alex just dominating that early stage. I thought there's going to be something is going to happen here where Rizzo pulls it out. Because otherwise, like you would not telegraph so aggressively that Rizzo is going to lose.
Yeah. So it was in Survivor 47 that Asia and TK went and did it, and both of them ended up being people who went out in the first couple of episodes after doing the Fight for Supplies challenge. And I think that coming away from that, players were thinking like, I would never go volunteer for that. Now, we saw last season, Kyle went on to win, and he was the loser of this. They didn't see that, though. They did see Kyle go on to the players in Survivor 49. I think they saw like the first half of Survivor 48. Do you feel like, is there still a stigma to do this type of thing if you are going to be volunteering for it?
I mean, maybe not anymore. I was glad that we didn't have like the typical like, oh, what reward did you, or what advantage did you get? And I guess they've all seen that there is no advantage there, right? So that's part of it too, where you saw there wasn't, but you've seen it happen twice. You've seen there be no advantage. The first time that happens, it just like there's a lot of suspicion, right? You were on an island, just the two of you. Like, of course, I have to wonder if there was like some other thing. Like, did you trade our tribe supplies for some personal advantage? Now there's a little bit of history where they can see that's not an option. This is just tribe supplies. Of course, now would be a great time to actually add that advantage into the game, put in something there. So there is that choice. But from the player's perspective, there's precedent to say, we've seen this happen and there's no advantage there.
Not only was there no advantage there, but there was no advantage found in the entire episode. Do you think that this was a production choice? Do you think that the advantages are not hidden yet?
It's possible that someone actually found it and we'll see it in a later episode, right? Sometimes they do that with just to like, I mean, I guess if they're in the premiere, they would probably include that.
But in the last couple of seasons, we've had where I think I want to say that in Survivor 46, I think that Tiffany found a episode 1 advantage. I think in 47, we had Gabe was going on the wild goose chase where there was the thing where you could like keep betting your advantage to find more and more things. And last season, we had the cryptics where people were trying to say was running around, trying to figure it all out. So this does feel like either they didn't find it, or if maybe it wasn't relevant to the outcome of this episode, and maybe we'll see players finding it in the future episodes.
Yeah. I'm sure there's something. I'm sure that it's going to be a part of the show.
It would be a big departure if that was the case.
Yeah.
All right. Who's out first from Red?
Oh, I think I mean, I honestly think it could be Sage. I also think it could be Jawan. I mean, we saw, like, I mean, you know that I'm loath to ever talk about the next time ons,
Mhm.
but we did see him feeling like we still saying I'm going to war after we see that foursome of like Nate and it looked like Rizzo and Savannah, possibly Shannon together. So I wonder if he ends up isolated. Not, I was kind of annoyed because like I felt like the reason that Savannah turned on him was a little bit unfair. He was trying really hard to make fire and then got frustrated and like walked away down the beach. It wasn't like he like started screaming about it or something. I mean, it's
Mhm.
really hot. It's like super hot. You're like there, like doing this annoying motion over and over again. You're sweating, you're uncomfortable. Like, and then it doesn't work out. And like, again, I read his interview and he'd been, prepping for that for a long time. And he was frustrated and he walked away and at a moment. Like, that seems like a very natural thing to happen in like the first days of Survivor.
If anything, it seemed like that the conflict that was happening in this episode was internal conflict, where we saw with Jawan, and we'll talk about with Stephen, where it was like nobody was like, Jesus, Jawan, I thought you said you could make a fire.
Right.
He was just like internally like, oh my God, like, why can't I do this? Like I do it all the time at home. And he like had to like take himself out of the situation. It seemed like, if anything, that was what Savannah seemed to pick up on.
Right. But I thought that was very like mature. Like he was like got overheated and frustrated and like walked away for a moment. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's like appropriately handling, how to handle things. What about Savannah? Let's talk about Savannah because we got a lot from her of like, oh, all this kumbaya stuff. We're gonna have to start slitting throats eventually.
Okay.
But
Don't
I'm like,
threaten us with a good time, Savannah.
yeah, exactly. Where are you on her? Is she going? She's very well positioned in the tribe. Is she going to maintain that position, or like, what's your take?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a version of this tribe where she is not at the center of it all. Like,
Yeah.
I thought there were going to be duos in this tribe. I thought that Nate and Jawan were going to be a duo, and then it seemed like we saw a little bit of Shannon and Sage looking like that they were going to hit it off and they look like a duo, but it does seem as though maybe the most connected duo in that tribe might be Savannah and Shannon, which I did not expect from the preseason interviews. But Savannah really does seem extremely well positioned. She seems like that she's ready for this challenge, and wherever she wants this tribe to go is going to be where it goes.
Right. It does seem like she is the one who is in the middle.
Jawan.
There. And I really liked Shannon Stevie Nicks meets Donnie Wahlberg. I think that's a very funny combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you a big Donnie Wahlberg guy? Are you Donnie Wahlberg or Mark Wahlberg?
I mean, I really don't. I'll take. I just love that whole Boston vibe. I lived in Providence for a while. Those are my by proxy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephen, what did you think tonight that there was mention of that? Okay, Jeff gave a whole speech about like what's great about Survivor, why are we here, what's it all about, your journey, and we ended up with a little bit of a prelude, speaking of trailers to the movie, of a bunch of the Survivor greats and maybe some folks we'll see coming up in the spring.
Love the JT flash. I felt like that it was pretty cool, actually. Like the first few moments before it became more of a trailer for 50, it was like, you had that like Rob and Tony walking down the beach, and then Sari and JT looking like, with his like warrior face on. And then, then some people were going to see on 50, and the ending with like the coach thing was very fun. And like the music cue around that I thought was great. With like his like Dragon Slayer moment or whatever it was. And it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I like that kind of like playing into like the history of it. I get a kick out of that. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I felt like it was fun to see. I was a little confusing like where it was going. And then the fact that it was just felt like it was kind of like, okay, and hey, don't forget Survivor 50. Like I felt like that in a way, like a little bit highlighted that, okay, we're here in Survivor 49, but we're still waiting for Survivor 50.
But didn't Jeff, I mean, maybe I hallucinated this, but I thought I read an interview with him where he said that the players are all very aware that they're like potentially competing for spots on 50. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe that kind of like hints at it, like, hey, like,
you
play
could
hard
be one
because,
of the legends.
Yeah, this is your chance. And it's like, that's the time, right? If you're on the season right before the All-Star season, like go hard, that's when you really leave it all out on the field.
Okay. Well, we had some people who got on the field who were not expecting to be on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Jason, and then I don't know if it was clear to you as somebody who just came in. Did you know that MC is also an alternate who got punched in at the very end?
I knew there were two, and so I texted Mike Bloom and asked him who the other one was. So
Yes.
yeah.
And so that there was an incident, and Jeff had talked a little bit about what was going on. People were like breaking the rules, and they were talking and passing notes. And turns out that some people got yanked right before the game started.
Crazy.
I like that.
Yeah, keep them on. Yeah,
Crack
follow the
down
rules.
at Ponderosa. Come
Truly.
on.
And it sounds like it was quite flagrant. And like you're there, I mean, like just follow the freaking rules. Make it not even just because of the game, but like because like the people who are enforcing the rules are these like handlers, you know, like just like make it easy for them. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, this is their job. They're like low down on the CBS. It's not Jeff Probst who's like being like tut tut tut. You know, it's like someone it's like a coordinator at CBS. Like just like make their life easy.
Yeah. Well, they will have no issues at Survivor 51.
Yeah.
Survivor 51
exactly.
Ponderosa, everybody's going to be standing at attention like this.
Yeah.
Absolute silence. Everybody is a church mouse, no passing notes, nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, all right, here comes Jason and MC. They end up coming into the Yellow Tribe, and it's really a love fest, and a love fest mostly centered around Stephen.
Yeah. Another
who some
great
people
Survivor.
say is what do they call him? A poor man's Ryan Reynolds?
He looks, I really see it. He really has a Ryan Reynolds like shape to his face.
Yes. I did catch that as I was going through the cast yesterday. I thought to myself, oh yeah, he does kind of look like a Ryan Reynolds, but I didn't.
Can I give you
it.
another one? Matt around his eyes looks a little bit like Kurt Russell.
Oh, okay. I have to go back and do the side by side.
A little bit in the right light. He looks a little just around his eyes. Looks a little.
But
like
I
Kurt
asked you
Russell's
the
eyes.
question that they said, no. Ryan Reynolds is a poor man's Stephen. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's lovely. That's
Which
the right
one?
thing to say.
Which one?
Which one? Oh, you mean me?
Is Ryan Reynolds the poor man's Stephen?
No. But he was very fun. I mean, what was interesting was like they really seemed to be setting him up as the social dynamo of his tribe. But then you suddenly see him like kind of like spiraling out a little bit. And you even have this moment with, I think when he was talking to someone and they said to him, I hope you're not saying, I hope you're not making alliances with everybody. And then you like see him like, it was kind of like Aubrey on whatever that season was.
It was Survivor at the Edge of Extinction.
Edge of Extinction. Yeah, I guess 38, where like you had that montage of her like going to talk to everybody. You're like, is he going to play himself out of the game? Like, what do you think? What's his trajectory?
I did not think he's going to play himself out of the game, but I think it was Jason who had that moment with him. And then it seemed like that Stephen just got in his head over the whole thing of like, oh, wait, hold on. Everybody thinks they like me, but maybe they don't. Yeah. And then he had to go like excuse himself.
Yeah. And that's, if Savannah had been there, he'd be done.
Yeah. So he seems like that he's set up well. He had a good night or a good relationship with Matt, who I thought had a good start to the game.
I really liked Matt. I have to say, I really impressed by Matt holding himself back until dark, before he like stepped in and made the fire. He let everybody else have a chance. He wasn't like, and like, I think you even had a confessional from someone. I think it may have been Steven who said like, I know that Matt knows how to do this. And like, yet he is like, he's like holding himself back over there. And then finally he stepped. That's hard. Like to wait till it gets dark and not just like step in and do this instantaneously. Like you can, like, good for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he seems to have all the outdoor stuff. I'm sure he's going to be a fan favorite where people love that he's can camp. He can provide for the tribe.
Yeah. Utah survivors. Great. Utah's great for survivors, right? We got Tyson is from Utah. Jonas was from Utah. Maybe is Nalia from Utah?
Nalia, sure.
Todd, right? Obviously. Yeah.
Tyson.
Yeah. So it's a good, Tyson does well with survivors.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah does well. Yeah. Tyson too.
Okay. So Yellow Tribe, hard to even pick out who might be in trouble here. Yeah.
Everybody seemed to be getting along really well. It felt like, this was a real vibe tribe, right? It did feel sort of like they're doing really well at challenges. And it felt like we're not going to see a lot of them until later in the game.
Yeah, I'm just like going through it in my head, and I'm trying to think of, okay, so Steven and Matt are tight. We saw Steven and Jason. We saw Steven and Christina. We saw Steven and MC. And who am I missing on that tribe?
Sophie.
Sophie. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if anybody actually was purple in this episode, and I said it in the opening, I don't think anybody was. Maybe it was Sophie S.
We saw the least. I think we saw the least of her. I am not
was in
sure if
the opening that she said, "I work at YouTube," and I think that might have been all we heard from her tonight.
Yeah, we did not get a lot of her. She was the least.
Mhm.
But that's a tough spot with the person, the least visible person on the least visible tribe. That's what you're gonna do.
And not to go too much into the edit reading of it all, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she's in imminent danger, but it tends to be like, okay,
quite the opposite, right?
Yeah, she's probably maybe somebody that we'll see more about, and maybe it doesn't go all the way, but is like more of a person that comes in the middle.
Who is in trouble on this tribe?
From the yellow tribe? I mean, we didn't really see, other than if it turns around and then it all implodes on Steven. I mean, that seems to be the only story that we're seeing in the yellow tribe.
Yeah. I mean, the only other person, who saw a weakness at all was like Christina a little bit, just because of all her fears of birds, for example. But I feel like, it didn't seem to be a problem, right? We didn't get somebody else saying, oh, wow, Christina, like she's afraid of birds. That felt like more like the start of a growth arc rather than like the thing that's going to be used to evict her.
Steven, let me say something positive also, that I have often said, that the tribal council, they waste a lot of money making the tribal council. You can't really tell what it is. I did think that this tribal council looked very cool.
Yeah, this was a rad tribal council.
Rad.
And they even worked it into the metaphor,
Yes.
They were even like, that's
rad
not a
tribal council. And you know what? I'll say this one is so good. You leave it for like 6 seasons.
Yeah,
it's fun. This
agree.
could be for 52.
Yeah, and we don't need the moment where they all look around. And you only really see the whole tribal council set, like that first moment when they all walk in there.
Super wide shot. So it's good. You did it. You did the thing. You don't need to keep tweaking it. You're great.
This is an awesome one. The whole next. See, the 50s should be like Under the Sea Survivor, like Ariel, Little Mermaid kind of thing. They got the shipwreck,
I promise,
like an Ursula advantage.
I'll never ever complain. Okay, write this down. I will never ever complain. Are they ever going to change tribal council? Oh my god, it's so samey same.
Yeah,
I'll never complain.
No, it's great.
And let me just then, to tie a bow on everything, that I will say that this is a very fun group. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. I just feel like that in terms of it being out of the gate, I feel like I'm still not feeling a ton of, hype of like, okay, now I'm dying to see where this goes next. Like, I'm looking forward to next week. We'll check back in with these people that we got to meet tonight, but I still don't feel like that we have, like the book Escape, that propulsive inertia yet in the new season.
Yeah, propulsive inertia would be something. It's I agree. This didn't feel like it like shot out of a cannon feeling. It definitely felt a little bit slower, but honestly, it's lovely. It's like a great way to spend, an hour and a half or 2 hours of your day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Steven, was there anything else that you had about this episode tonight?
I think that really was all of my notes. I mean, really cool for Jason to come in as an alternate and have this like immediate hero moment on the puzzle. That was awesome. I love to see that.
That's a hard puzzle because, you think about a puzzle and you're sort of like, okay, I'm moving the pieces around. But when the pieces are like really heavy to try to move them around, like that's tough in front of everybody. And it's the first day.
Yeah, it's really, really challenging. I noticed a bunch of people swam with pants on. I thought that was a very bad choice. If you have to go for a swim, take off your pants. I mean, it's just like real straightforward. You don't want to swim with pants on. And what else? That's pretty much everything.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let's see where it all goes from here. But I'll tell you about some of the places we're going from here, Steven. I've got 2 live shows where I'll be rubbing elbows with the Survivor Glitterati.
Wow.
And so Check it out. I will be in New York City on October 8th, and then I will be in San Francisco for November 5th. 2 big live shows on the East Coast and the West Coast this fall. So join us for that. Tickets are available. Some tickets are available at robhasawebsite.com/events. Okay. And then over on Patreon, we're telling everybody, join the club, become a patron, because Club Condo is coming to Patreon this season. Chappelle and I, we do the slop for Big Brother, all the stuff that it's too wild and crazy for the main feed. And our legal team says, you got to put this stuff on Patreon. And so we're going to keep Club Condo rolling on the Robinson Podcast Patreon. And so no matter what kind of club you're into, whether you're into being a VIP or getting your podcasts in bulk, come and join us for Club Condo Mondays on Patreon this season.
What club allows him? He's in a tux and you're like in plaid. Like, what club is that? That's a very,
Yes. So the origin story for this was when we were talking about, like, okay, well, there's the sort of club where Chappelle would have a fun time going. And I said, you know what kind of club I would have fun at? Sam's Club. Okay. They're like, really, Rob? You'd rather go to like buy bulk groceries than like, yeah. Have you met me?
Yeah. I mean, bulk groceries is pretty good.
Okay. So then I'm also going to be doing the Survivor Q&A. The patrons call in. I take their questions live. Whatever you want to talk about with Survivor or beyond within reason, we'll answer your questions with the patrons, 3 p.m. Eastern on Fridays for the Robbins Podcast patrons. Also, this weekend for the patrons, we did the Reality Mafia this past week, which was very fun. Check that out on our YouTube channel, which you should certainly be subscribed to here at the start of the season. Patron Mafia is coming. Patrons can watch some of the RHAP patrons play the age-old game, the classic game of social strategy, Mafia. Stephen, and then for all your Survivor podcast coverage, in addition to everything I'm doing here on Rob as a Podcast, check out our Survivor podcast feed at WeKnowSurvivor.com, where every week you'll hear the B&B, YX Lost, Global Survivor, and the Survivor News with Bryce. You can check that all out at WeKnowSurvivor.com. Tonight, Stephen, guess what? I'm pulling double duty.
Whoa.
I'm podcasting about Big Brother tonight, too.
Is this the end? Is this the end of the Big Brother?
Not yet.
I can't wait for it to get off my feeds.
Yeah, not until Sunday. And I'll be podcasting about a eviction episode of Big Brother 27 right here. So if you can't stay up late with us, you can see it in your podcast feeds. And then tomorrow night, I'll be back at 11 p.m. Eastern.
Wow.
What?
Oh, my God. Wow.
Oh, my God. Stephen, I'm pulling out all the stops this week because I'm going to be talking about a Big Brother edition of The Amazing Race.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay. And I'll be podcasting about The Amazing Race all season long. I took a couple of seasons off from The Amazing Race, but I'm coming back for the all.
Wait, they had Enzo on it after what he did on the challenge?
Yep.
What? After he did that to Desi? Outrageous. I feel like
you're not going to believe the worst part of it, but I'll tell you, you're not going to believe who got bumped.
Oh, no. Oh, I heard it was you mean the Worden brothers?
Yep.
That's so upsetting. For Enzo after what he did to Desi?
Hey, listen, cut Enzo some slack. He calls me up if you say bad stuff about him on the podcast. Okay. All right. Cut him some slack, Steven.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm sure he had his reasons.
All right. Then check that out. That's going to be on Thursday night after Big Brother. And then, of course, on Chat BCC, we're having so much fun with the survivors. But Chat BCC for Big Brother was crazy this summer. Of course, Chat BCC, if you're just joining us, it's the VIP group chat for Survivor. And we are posting in there during the episodes. It was super fun tonight and will be fun all season long. So come on in and see what the survivors are saying about all of this. Go to robinswebsite.com/VIP chat and be sure to pre-order Escape.
Yes, StephenFishbach.com. I don't think I said that, but maybe I did. I probably said it 10 times, or maybe I didn't say it at all. Anyway, StephenFishbach.com will link you both to the signed copies that you can get through Politics and Prose, which is my local bookstore, and all of your traditional retailers, and of course also you can buy it at your local bookstore. And as I've mentioned, pre-orders super important. And I'm so grateful to the Know-It-Alls audience that has already really come and bought copies, and maybe more will.
Okay.
So eloquent.
And of course, it was so nice to you
really...
save it all for the book.
Yeah, exactly. It's written. I can edit it in the book.
It's been great to get you back for the Know-It-Alls, but look, there was some vintage Stephen last week. We talked about the influencer episode of Survivor. Stephen was shot out of a cannon talking about all the influencers. So if you wanted some podcast coverage about that, if you saw what they did with the 8 influencers that went to go play and actually did this challenge, the very challenge in this episode. This is the second time we've seen this challenge.
Yeah, well, I sort of I watched this one extra fast because of that. I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen here. I can kind of go on 1.5x.
Yeah,
speed.
We were like, you're no Klitz.
Yeah.
That's the name of the guy.
Episode was super fun, by the way. Like, they were great. I mean, I guess their whole point of the influencers is that they're big dynamic personalities. But
yeah,
I would very much want to see some of them back on the show.
Okay, Sam is putting this also up, and then check out.
Oh yes,
Blood on the
thank you.
Tower.
New episode of Blood on the Clock Tower, possibly our best one yet. And that is on the RHAP YouTube.
Okay. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's the start of the season. Make sure you subscribe. We appreciate having you on board for what should be a fun ride here in Survivor 49. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Wait. Hold on. Steven. We almost ended the podcast.
Yeah.
And forgot to do that's how out of season we are. We
the most
forgot
important part of the episode
to dole out the most coveted award in all of Survivor podcasting. And that is the highly desirable, never duplicated Fishy Award.
What's amazing to me about that is that Sam said he turned down the audio. It's still quite aggressive. Yeah.
That's in case anybody was falling asleep.
Yeah. This is a tricky one for me because there's no real obvious candidate. On the one hand, you have someone like Jake, who was the guy who sort of started, this alliance. He's the guy who does found this group. He's the one who's like, I want Alex as in my group. He's the one who says to Sophie, this is our group. Let's get Alex. And that group is decisive in voting out Nicole. I mean, so that might make the most sense. I mean, on the other hand, Jake is sort of that out front there character and is that going to be a huge target by creating this alliance? Alex, another possible candidate, because he's the guy who has this relationship with Annie and ends up managing to save his ally, although his ally is currently throwing out his name. Let's see. I mean, and then there's the other tribe. You have Savannah. I think Savannah is a viable candidate. She wasn't obviously part of the elimination, but she has really established herself. If you had to say who in this game is in the best strategic position right now of anybody, you might pick Savannah for that reason, right?
This is tough. You're right. Because I feel like that in my heart, I feel like that the fishy should always go to the person who went to tribal council.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. Well, it's as you know, it's an award that it's a fake reward that rewards losers for losing or something. Yes. a broken system that rewards losers for losing.
Yes.
So we can't reward a winner. We do have to reward a loser.
Mitch did cook with that one. I got to be honest.
That's great. That should be part of it. That should be like the fishy, the broken system that rewards the losers for losing.
Yeah. So I feel like that if we're going to narrow it down to the Blue Tribe, and maybe Savannah did have the best episode of somebody not on the Blue Tribe. I think that could be nobody would riot in the streets if you gave it to Savannah. But I feel like that of the people on the Blue Tribe, I would have a hard time giving it to Jake, who I hear your points, but I feel like that he did not do a lot. I feel like that sort of the alliance was built around him more so than it was.
Really? Because it seemed like he was the one who Alex, you're with me. And then he
you're with me. And everybody else was like, I'm with the big guy. So I feel like that he was sort of, other than, going to the gym and being big and strong, I don't know if Jake did as much to put it together.
You talked me out of giving it to David. And I feel like there's a little bit of an anti-hot person bias happening here.
You think it could be the anti-hot person bias at play? Yeah. It's possible. I'm going to throw a name at you haven't said yet. What do you think of Jeremiah?
I like Jeremiah a lot. We actually didn't talk about Jeremiah very much, only to say that he was in a great spot. We didn't see as much of him. He didn't really. By the way, does his laugh?
Nope. That's Stephen. I'm sorry. I get to decide the fishy now. Stephen has dropped off the call, and I'll give it to whoever I feel like, because now, until Stephen shows back up, I've got control of all the power. Okay.
Fishy.
What happened?
Happened. You know, we're gonna give it to the person who's voted out next, because it's like something. This is all bad. It's bad karma.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what were you saying about Jeremiah?
I feel like, do you think that his laugh sounds like Mark Hamill's Joker's laugh? I mean, in a great way.
Yeah, they're really steering into it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the Mark Hamill Joker. But yeah, I like him a lot, but we didn't really see him do very much. You know, we saw him like be social, but like, who's the person who created this alliance? Like, if it is the person who did the most, I think you have to give it to Jake.
I feel like that the other person I would give some real consideration to is Sophie. And even though I kind of disagreed with her bringing that information back to the group, unless she really wanted Annie out and then got overruled, which is maybe a point to not give her the fishy, I thought that she was somebody who had some really strong strategic thoughts throughout the episode.
And we do see her like bouncing around with everybody, kind of like building those bonds. You know, we see her like very quickly going to Jake. We see her, you know, obviously with Jeremiah, kind of like locking him in and saying, you know, we're a two.
Yeah.
I feel like on the merits,
I think she's the Savannah of the Blue Tribe.
I don't know. I think on the merits, it's Jake. I mean, like, I'm a little hesitant to give it to Jake.
It's your award, because then you hold it against me and then you throw it in my face of like, I wanted to give it to Jake 4 weeks ago and you talked me out of it. You talked me into giving it to Jeremiah.
I think it honestly, like, and I got, you know, the David thing, it was a real rift, you know, when I didn't give it to David, because when he stood up,
Right. And of course, you were on the right side of history of wanting to give awards to David, where I said give it to Camilla.
Yeah. So I think, like, I'm a little like, I don't know if he's necessarily like, he's so out there with the bromance, though. The problem with Jake is that he's so out there with the bromance that it's creating a bit of a target on him and it's alienating his allies. That's why maybe I'm not going to give it to Jake, because it is like, and that's almost why I want to give it to Alex, because Alex is in that bromance, but he's not the one. I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right about Sophie. This is a tricky one. Jake or Sophie? I really don't know. And Sophie's the one who's observing it. Okay. Wow.
Got Alex over here.
Wow. We've got props.
Pick one, Steven. Who are you gonna pick?
Yeah. I do think Jake just like went too hard with the bromance.
Give it to me.
Oh gosh, this is a tricky one. I'm gonna say, I mean, I don't know. You tell me, Rob. You tell me.
Give it to Sophie.
That's Alex. Yeah. Okay. All right, I am going to say Sophie, because she correctly intuited that this bromance thing, she was the third wheel in that. And even if it's okay that she's the third wheel, she was the one who had Annie's ear. You didn't love that move, but it did kind of, bond her more deeply. And she's got this side thing with Jeremiah.
She's set up. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I mean, it was real. Jake, you were so close, but you just like went too hard on the bromance and too publicly. You were so close, Jake. Near miss fishy.
Near miss fishy.
Is that a thing? The one that got away.
the one that got away. That's what they should call it.
Yeah. And then we got Sophie for the actual fishy. Congratulations, Sophie. Fishy for you.
Congratulations for you, Sophie B, winner of fishy number 1. That's going to do it for all of us here for Survivor Know-It-Alls. We'll be back on a busy Thursday. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye. This is RHAP. We know reality TV.